I wanted to talk to you about sporting heroes in generally throughout, but also about your sporting heroes. Firstly, when you were growing up, who did you look up to, and what was it about them that you looked up to? What did you inspire to be?
I had a lot of sports heroes. Being in Canada anyway, I had a lot of my heroes were hockey players. Wayne Gretzky, of course, and Bobby Orr was another. They're both through my lifetime. Of course, Roberto Clemente was my favorite baseball player. I was always a Pirates fan, and still am. I'm a big football fan. I could sit and name football players for maybe too long, but I've always loved the football players. A lot of the Oakland Raiders and stuff like that. I just always loved American football, better than, more so than Canadian football, which I found a little slower and more ponderous, not quite as professional as the NFL. But it's still good too. And growing up as a younger sports enthusiast, when I was a kid, I loved a lot of the Canadian Football League players.
Okay. So what was it about people like Wayne Gretzky that you looked up to? What did the kind of message that they give you while you were watching them, do you think?
Well, I think they always, and Bobby Orr and a lot of these guys always seemed very humble, and they just seemed to love what they were doing. I try to apply the same things to what I did as a pro wrestler, and some of the pro wrestlers I looked up to as a kid. And there was a lot of them, especially the world champions like Bruno Sammartino, and I only knew him through wrestling magazines. And he did work for my father briefly in the early '60s, but even Andre the Giant. Not so much as the wrestling character, but the behind-the-scenes character, and being a younger teenager when I was in my 15, 16 years old. Guys like Andre were always such gentlemen, and they made a young kid like me feel welcome in the world of wrestling, like I was one of the wrestlers, even though I was just a young kid. But I've been really fortunate that I've had such great role models in sports history. Muhammad Ali is another one that comes to mind. And even Mike Tyson. I was going to wear a Mike Tyson Roots of Fight shirt today, but I wore it last night, and I thought it might be a little stinky. So I'd pass up on that.
So you've got the Canadian flag,
the Terry
obviously.
Fox shirt, which is that's another iconic. Not necessarily a sports hero, but I would include him in every kind. He's one of the most what's the word? Pure heroes. A real hero from in every aspect of the word hero, and you just take those kind of things, and I know pro wrestling's a different thing, but you try to apply a lot of those things. I've always tried really hard to be good to my fans because they've always been so good to me, and I think that's always paid off. I look at when I come back to the UK here. I was fortunate enough to be a childhood hero for a lot of them. Now they're grown up, and they sort of still believe in the Hitman, and I'm still important part of their life, and I don't forget that. And when I come back here, I always feel like it's like a second home when I come back to the UK. I really feel safe, and in a strange way I feel loved here.
That's good. I mean, I can say from a personal point of view, that's exactly how I feel. And one of the reasons why we got you in today and wanted to talk to you about this. And I was hoping to ask you really when you first realised that you were a role model for kids, and did you ever struggle to keep that going and manage that through the business, and when people wanted to perhaps change the character and things like that?
Well, I started out in WWF basically as a bad guy with the Hart Foundation, and so you didn't worry about being a hero or a role model so much. But once they, my evolution into being a babyface or a good guy was a result of the fact that I remember Vince McMahon called me to tell me. We were just talking about it on the ride up today. He called up and said, "We're going to turn you babyface because you got more fan mail than anybody else in the company." And I do remember in those days, in those early days when I was still a heel in the Hart Foundation. They'd bring in 3 or 4 bags of mail for all the wrestlers to sort through, and then I used to think, well, where's mine? And all of a sudden they'd bring 3 or 4 big, huge bags in and dump mine out, and they were all for me. And they were surprised. It was a shock, like, why is Bret Hart getting all this mail?
So do you think there was something about your character, your personality that just came through anyway, even when you're a heel, that's kind of unstoppable, really? Something about you?
I had a really authentic and hard-working wrestling style, so people liked the way I was a sort of a no-quit kind of wrestler, and I was very realistic and credible in my style. I also think that, I don't know about England so much, but in Germany and some of these other countries, the pink was something that they liked. They liked it in the sense that I was in places like Germany where, they had so much history going back to World War II and stuff, where it was such a gray history. I think a hero for a lot of those kids that were growing up and people that were fans, that was just the pink and black and the sunglasses and the whole look with the leather jacket was just kind of the right kind of hero for what they could kind of get behind. And I really think that made me set me apart from everyone else. And for some reason here in the UK and in Germany and Austria and Switzerland and Italy and all those other markets that we had back in those days, I had a completely different reaction from the fans than I did in North America. I was well received in Canada and the United States, but it was so much bigger over here. In fact, it's hard to describe to people just how big that was. It was a little bit like WrestleMania, Beatlemania sometimes. I remember in England, I'd get stampeded in the lobbies, and they wouldn't run at Ultimate Warrior and all these other guys, but they'd run right to me. And I think there was always a bit of surprise, like, why is everyone so into Bret Hart, including me going, I don't know. I remember in Italy, in Milan, there was all these young girls, about 16, outside the bus crying. And they're all
like Beatlemania,
really crying hard. And I remember Jimmy Hart walking up the aisle and going, I ain't never seen anything like this in my life. And that was unbelievable. He said, they ought to go out and film that and show that, how big an impact you have. And, no one did. But, I remembered it, and it was before I got my big break as champion and stuff like that. But it was all bubbling under the surface. It was like, I think I was...
Is it a cultural thing then, you think? Maybe the European culture perhaps looks at someone who's authentic and hardworking and technically good over the flashy kind of...
It might also be, I'm not saying it is, but it might also be the fact that Americans sometimes come off as so better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And being a Canadian might have set me apart from some of the American heroes that were coming up at that time, like Macho Man or Ultimate Warrior. And I always had a much more softer approach to my interviews and promos and stuff. I was never, not so much that wrestler that was yelling at the screen and talking about what he was going to do. I was always the one that was more, not yelling, but talking to my fans. I think I was different, and I think I maybe was the first wrestler to come along in a long time that wasn't about how big I was or how big my arms were. I didn't have 24-inch pythons, and I didn't have all the things like face paint and things like that. I just had my wrestling skills, and it was about my wrestling and the drama that I could paint in my matches.
Yeah. So when you look back, what do you think the Hitman character kind of stood for in like maybe 5 or 6 words, and how much of that was you? Was that you as a person, and how much of it was stuff that you had to add?
Well, I think in a lot of ways every wrestling character is based on your real, depending on what your gimmick is. But I think it's hard to differentiate between your wrestling character and your real character. You kind of end up, being both. I in a lot of ways, I've always been both. I've always been my wrestling character in and out of the ring and in and out of the dressing room. I was always really respected in the dressing room by the wrestlers. And I think, I just had the right things at the right time, maybe.
Okay. Did you ever worry then when they wanted to turn you heel, or when you did go heel? Did you worry that you would lose perhaps that fan base that you'd built over such a long time?
Yes, I did. I did very much worry about it. In fact, when Vince McMahon called me to tell me that, I remember he kind of laughed and joked on the phone. He goes, "We want to turn you heel," and I said, "I don't want to turn heel. I don't want to be a bad guy. I really took pride in being a worldwide hero, much the same as John Cena today. But it was much the same as John Cena. The audience was starting to want something different.
Yeah.
And they wanted somebody new. And it's like, do I change styles, or what do I do to sort of stay alive? And Vince, I said I don't want to turn heel, and he said, give me 5 minutes and I'll talk you into it.
Okay.
And I said, I'll give you 5 minutes and good luck. I'm not interested. And he talked to me for less than 5 minutes and talked me into it pretty fast. So the heel turn was a difficult choice to make, but Vince stressed to me, and I never wonder if that was the beginning of where they're going to tear me down. But he said, we're going to keep you. You're going to be a hero everywhere else. You're just going to be a bad guy in the United States.
Okay.
And he said, you're still going to be, because you're our number one. I was the number one merchandise guy. Sold my T-shirts and the sunglasses and the stuff I had. I was the biggest seller in the company, and that was half my salary. And it was a lot of money that I was walking away from to become a bad guy. And he said, it's not going to affect your T-shirts and all that stuff, because you're going to be a good guy everywhere else. And I don't know if they were totally honest all that. I know when we wrestled that pay-per-view in Birmingham back in '97, that they were clearly trying to turn me heel or turn the audience against me on the mic when they were doing the commentary. And that's Vince, and that was Jim Ross and guys like that.
Do you think it worked, or do you think actually the legacy is still the good guy, and especially in the UK?
I think it's the way I did it. A lot of my rants back then about Americans, they rang true. Like it was like a lot of people are going, you're right. And in Canada, we don't necessarily have a big, we love America in Canada. But I think a lot of people are like, yeah, you're right. And,
time somebody said it.
Worked. and it made me, in Canada anyway, to this day, I'm still an iconic hero, and all that. I take being a hero really serious. I mean, I think I know that there's a lot of kids that watch me grow, that have grown up now, and they've watched me evolve in my life from fighting cancer or fighting a stroke, or even the screw job and my brother Owen's passing. There's all these things that I've had to go through in the public eye kind of thing, and I think people respect me for how I carried myself.
Okay. So is that how, obviously that's how you want to be perceived, but are you conscious of obviously maintaining that now in when you meet fans and that kind of thing, of making sure that your fans remember that aspect of you and your career?
Growing up in wrestling, I've been involved really in wrestling my entire life. Since I was 5 years old, I was selling wrestling programs, working at the wrestling shows, doing different jobs, even the doorman, and then eventually the referee, and then eventually a wrestler. And we made our living, with 12 kids in the family, and my father's whole life background in wrestling. I always learned right from the get-go, you never forget your wrestling fans. They're the ones that put your food on the table, and they're the ones that pay the bills for me. And my dad was always very genuine with the fans, and he was always, you got to appreciate every single one of them. And I always did. I was always a guy that always tried to make time for every autograph or a picture. I never mind a picture. To me, there's not enough pictures in the world. So. I mean, I look now, where are all these pictures? I don't know where I'm taking a million of them, and find it hard to find any pictures anymore. But I always found it part of the job. I thought it was important to be good to the fans, and what's an autograph? I don't know. Autograph is the most simplest thing in the world. And a photograph is no big deal either. And I try to accommodate. I try to remember my fans, and I do. A lot of them, like when I come back, I see faces and people that I knew 15, 20 years ago. And, I think it's just important. I know a lot of wrestling superstars sometimes forget where they came from. They forget that there's these people worship you for being a hero, and when you give them the hand and tell them that you're too busy or you got to get in the elevator, you got to remember that. And that someday when you wonder why you have no fan base, you can just look at how you treated them.
Do you think it's easy then for wrestlers to sometimes fall into that when you're involved in the business and everything's going on, that it's just easier to say no?
I think it's in any profession, maybe from rock and roll to, I've seen baseball players and basketball players and professional athletes of the highest caliber be pretty lousy about signing an autograph or taking a picture, and they forget that one time they were a little kid asking somebody for the same thing, and you know, I just take those little things with me.
Yeah. So finally, any kid or anyone of any age who's coming to you and asking for advice on how to, you know, be a success in their life or whatever they're doing, what advice would you give them from what you've learned as a wrestler and from your personal life as well?
Well, I think you know, you should never. I think you should always believe in yourself and pursue any dream that connects with you. You know, whether it's to be an astronaut or to be the president or prime minister, or, you know, to be a lead singer in a rock and roll band or be the quarterback on a football team. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be that actor that's going to be kissing Marilyn Monroe, or you know, it's like, why not you?
Yeah.
It's like, and you know, if you got the confidence and the work ethic, you can make any dream come true. And I think I applied a lot of that to myself. I mean, I think I was clearly a dark horse in wrestling. I don't think when I joined WWF there was any chance that no one thought I was ever going to rise out of that and become the star of the company. And I think I'm in itself a lesson, you know, like just believe in yourself and be true to yourself, and good things will happen.
Okay. Thank you, Bret.